you are cannot be reduced. You are simply puppeting this vehicle. It is the only way that we can experience the sensations, the processing of emotions and feelings here in this particular program. This is the purpose of the body. This is the purpose of the body, to process the sensations from the emotions, from the interactive system, because the simulation is an interactive system where we are having a relationship with any and everything. And what does that result in? We're happy, we're sad, we're mad, we're whatever. That's the processing of emotions and feelings. And you can only do that here in this body, in this sensory system. Now, what is the sensory system actually made up of, as you know? Subatomic particles. Subatomic particles. What's in those particles? Information. All of it is just streams of data, streams of information, but your body, yours, the subatomic particles that form the pattern that constructs each and every one of you, your body, has information specific to you. Information that is core information for the design of a human body, but at the same time, information that is specific to you. And that determines how you are networked into the system, into the simulation, and your hookup with the default program. Why? Because everything you believe about yourself and about reality, these subatomic particles carry that. They're constantly changing. As you know, this is not the same body. It's always changing. It's not the same. But why then does it look the same? Why do we then age? Why do we then age? We age because we are looping the same limiting information through those subatomic particles all the time. That's why it happens. There is nothing new enough to unlock the vehicle, to unlock the sensory system where the more expansive part of you comes in and really navigates. So the body does what it is designed to do, which is to survive, which is to keep the organism alive at all costs. Does that make sense to anybody in here? And this is why we find that they are starting to look, science is starting to look at truly, why do people die? You have been taught, we've all been taught, even though I came in realizing that this was a farce, we have been, I knew something was going on, but I was afraid to touch that thing back there. As long as it didn't pull my dress down, I was good. That'd be a whole different conference. But we are taught, and this is where we go with the DNA aspect, but we are taught this birth to death concept. So yeah, it's going to be automatic. It's a given. It's a given because everybody around you expires. Everybody around you expires. So what would make you think otherwise? What would make you think otherwise? What would make you even think that your body is locked, that it's on auto, and that it's a battery that's going to wane? Nobody, they don't talk about any of this. They don't talk about any of that. But now science is stopping and really examining, why is this happening? So what happens is they're pushing it further now. Well, it looks like, human beings are going to start being able to live to 120. I'm going to get into this further. For some people are like, well, I don't want to live to 120. I'm going to get into that program. I don't want to live to 120. Now they're pushing that. And what does that tell you? That human beings respond according to what they are told, to suggestions. That's what we live by, is suggested concepts about reality. That's what happens. It's all suggestions. It's been suggested, and you dare not question it with other people because they're going to think you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? But again, this idea of a seat at the table, this idea of going beyond what you think is so great about what our alien brothers and sisters do. We're going beyond that. We have to leave this state of kindergarten thinking in order to move beyond that into a more elevated level of technology, starting with this, because this is the interest right here. That's why the probing and all of that. This is the interest, because you don't know that there's information in there. You don't know the hookup, the network, how it connects to this bigger network, and what it is capable of doing. Because you don't know that those subatomic particles can either break down in seconds, in milliseconds, in no time, and be transported, as it really, really does do, but you're unconscious of when you do it. So now the conscious aspect of it, right? We don't know that. You don't know that. So you just dabble in other things. And so you see where this is significant. Now, in terms of the information that gets passed along in the DNA, this is what happens. The reality code gets passed along from your family, from ancestors, from generation to generation. It just keeps getting passed on. A copy, a version, a coding of what reality looks like. Okay, we know a tree's a tree. We know, what that looks like. We know what a chair looks like. In other words, there's a blueprint. Also, the brain holds that blueprint. But there's a blueprint of what has been the common version and interpretation of reality. This is what is going on. There is a blueprint of the common version and interpretation of reality. And that's what keeps getting passed on through the gene pool. But then there you have what they call junk DNA. It's all the stuff that is unlocked, all the stuff that is there operating, but it's operating in multidimensional levels. As I said before, all we have are spaces between the spaces between the spaces, realms on top of realms on top of realms. So yes, DNA is operating in a multidimensional way, far beyond anything conceivable. But we, on a conscious level, are operating based on the base program or base version, base interpretation of what reality is supposed to look like. And so we keep getting the same thing over and over. What we have is mass to mass or density to density function. This is what we call third dimension. It's all mass to mass, density to density, which is volume and weight. That's the anchor. That's what gravity works with, is that mass to mass density. Because we're not operating on a upper level of frequency or vibration to allow us to not operate so heavily in the density to density state, that mass to mass state. This is where the aging starts to happen. This is where everything starts to happen because we're not operating from a more elevated. When I say higher frequency, I don't mean good or bad, better or worse. That's not what I'm talking about. But we're not operating from an elevated frequency or elevated vibrations that cause us to do what? That would allow us to obtain and maintain an actual charge from a space that has no beginning or end. So in other words, we end up operating on this finite source of energy supplied to the body.